wasn't a conscious decision. The decision was more or less made for me. I still find other ways to fulfill that. The passion for me just hasn't stopped.
Paul Walker's life was more than fast cars and movie stardom. It was about family, passion, and the daughter who would carry his legacy forward. From his early days as a young dad grappling with responsibility to balancing Hollywood fame with the quiet moments that meant everything, Paul's life was a mix of thrill and heartfelt devotion. His daughter, Meadow, shared precious years in Hawaii before joining him in Los Angeles, where they found an unbreakable bond. But after his tragic accident, Meadow stepped forward not just as his daughter, but as the keeper of his story. What truths has she revealed that even the biggest fans might not know? Paul Walker's story began long before he was racing through city streets on the big screen. Born on September 12, 1973 in Glendale, California, Paul had roots that were equal parts rugged and glamorous. His mother, Cheryl, was a fashion model, while his father, Paul William Walker III, balanced life as a sewer contractor with a passion for boxing. And not just any kind. He was a two-time Golden Gloves champion. The grit in Paul's lineage ran deep. His grandfather, known as Irish Billy Walker, had a short-lived boxing career, while another relative pushed limits racing factory cars for Ford in the 1960s. Growing up in the Sunland neighborhood of Los Angeles, Paul's early years were shaped by a sense of discipline and adventure. He was raised Mormon and shared a busy household with his 4 younger siblings, Amy, Ashley, Caleb, and Cody. It was a house that buzzed with life, stories, and the kind of energy that would later fuel Paul's on-screen persona. By 1991, he had graduated from Village Christian School, and though acting had already begun to pull at him, Paul's first love was marine biology. He enrolled in community colleges around Southern California, soaking up knowledge about the sea, always ready to pivot between the roles of student and budding actor. Paul's entry into the world of entertainment was hardly a slow roll. He began as a toddler, modeling in commercials for products like Pampers, capturing attention with that early sparkle in his eyes. By 1984, he was making waves in television, appearing in CBS School Break Special, a teen anthology series. Bit by bit, Paul carved out space for himself in Hollywood. The late 80s saw him acting in 2 episodes of Highway to Heaven, sharing screen time with Michael Landon. And by 1987, he had his first leading role in the sitcom Throb, where his talent started to gain real momentum. The early 90s were Paul's playground for guest roles. He made appearances on popular sitcoms like Charles in Charge and Who's the Boss, showcasing a range that would later become his calling card. In 1993, he landed a recurring role on The Young and the Restless as Brandon Collins, acting alongside Heather Tom. Their chemistry on screen resonated so strongly that it earned both actors nominations for Outstanding Lead Actor and Actress at the Youth and Film Awards. While Paul had some success on TV, the movie world beckoned. His first feature film role came in 1986 in the B-horror comedy Monster in the Closet. It was quirky, sure, but Paul didn't care. He loved being on set. In 1998, he got his first major break in Meet the Deedles. The film didn't win critical praise, but it was a stepping stone that led to bigger parts. That same year, Paul appeared in Pleasantville playing Skip Martin, a heartthrob in a magical world of black and white turning to color. In 1999, he was part of Varsity Blues, where he shared the screen with a young James Van Der Beek and embodied the perfect All-American quarterback, Lance Harbor. That same year, he also had roles in She's All That and The Skulls. But nothing could prepare Paul for 2001. That year, he took on the role of Brian O'Connor in The Fast and the Furious, alongside Vin Diesel. It wasn't just a movie. It was the spark that ignited a full-blown franchise. The film was packed with speed, tension, and the kind of adrenaline Paul had in his DNA. Audiences loved it. And suddenly, Paul wasn't just an actor. He was a bona fide movie star. He even took home an MTV Movie Award for Best On-Screen Team with Diesel in 2002. In the years that followed, Paul's career continued to climb. He starred in Joyride, a thriller that showcased his knack for keeping audiences on edge, and reprised his role as Brian O'Connor in Too Fast, Too Furious. While he took risks with smaller projects like Timeline and Into the Blue, they didn't quite hit the same mark. But Paul wasn't one to shy away from challenges. He took on the role of Hank Hansen in Clint Eastwood's Flags of Our Fathers, showing a different side of his acting chops. That same year, 8 Below hit theaters, a survival drama where Paul played Jerry Shepard, leading audiences through a story that pulled at the heartstrings. The film topped the box office on its opening weekend, raking in over $20 million. Paul wasn't just acting for the paycheck. In 2012, he co-founded Laguna Ridge Pictures, showing he wanted to be involved in storytelling from more angles. He had a deal with Universal Pictures, which kept him in the fold of the franchise that made him famous. But life was never just about fame for Paul. He returned to modeling, becoming the face of Cool Water fragrance in 2011, exuding a charisma that seemed effortlessly genuine. Then came Fast and Furious in 2009, a turning point after a 7-year gap from the franchise. Fans were thrilled, and Paul's dedication to Brian O'Connor reignited the series, making it the highest-grossing film in the franchise at that point. He followed up with Fast 5 and Fast and Furious 6, both box office hits. The chemistry between Paul, Diesel, and newcomers like Dwayne Johnson was electric, earning Paul nominations for movie awards focused on action and ensemble chemistry. But beyond the action, Paul was known for taking on unique projects. He starred in Takers in 2010 and in 2013 was an executive producer on Pawn Shop Chronicles. He had future plans that included more than just films. Paul was set to play Agent 47 in Hitman. Agent 47, a role that would have pushed him into new territory. He'd even turned down the chance to play Superman in Superman Returns in 2006, wary of the curse that seemed to follow the role. Paul chose roles not just for fame, but to stay true to himself. Paul Walker wasn't just the guy who played Brian O'Connor. He lived cars, breathed them, and pushed them to the limit in real life. Beyond the screen, Paul was a serious car enthusiast with a passion that reached far beyond collecting. He competed in the Redline Time Attack Racing Series, driving a powerful BMW E92 M3 for the AE Performance Team. His car carried the names of sponsors like Etnies, Brembo Brakes, and Hankook, showing the extent of his commitment. This wasn't just a hobby, it was a lifestyle. He was known for Always Evolving, the high-end performance shop in Valencia he co-owned. There, Paul's partner and friend, Roger Rodas, a Pro-Am racer, served as CEO. Paul's personal collection was jaw-dropping, filled with about 30 unique and high-performance vehicles. He co-owned some of these cars with Rodas, sharing a bond built on a mutual love of speed and engineering. It was more than metal and engines. It was friendship and trust. In January 2020, 7 years after Paul's passing, 21 of his prized vehicles were auctioned off, fetching $2.33 million during intense bidding. Even in absence, Paul's name drew admiration, a testament to how deep his passion ran. But November 30th, 2013, changed everything. Paul, 40, and Rodas, 38, left a charity event for Reach Out Worldwide, Paul's organization dedicated to helping disaster victims. That day, they stepped into a red 2005 Porsche Carrera GT with Rodas behind the wheel. As they sped down Hercules Street in Santa Clarita, California, they hit between 80 and 93 miles per hour in a 45 miles per hour zone. The car lost control on a curve, infamous among drivers for its lure as a drifting spot. The Porsche crashed into a concrete lamppost and 2 trees, igniting into flames within seconds. Forensics later showed that both Paul and Rodas were knocked unconscious on impact. Rodas died instantly from multiple traumatic injuries. Paul, who had survived the initial impact, succumbed moments later to a combination of trauma and burns. The fire consumed the car, leaving both bodies unrecognizable. Rumors flew, as they always do when tragedy strikes, but the investigation was clear. There was no alcohol or drugs involved, no sign of mechanical failure, and road conditions played no role. There were whispers about drag racing, but police found nothing to suggest that. The ultimate conclusion was blunt: excessive speed and old tires. The Porsche Carrera GT, known for being a beast to control, was both the star and villain in this story. Paul's death halted the production of Furious 7. Universal took an immediate pause, working closely with Paul's family to decide how to proceed. They chose to complete the film using a combination of Paul's brothers, Caleb and Cody, as stand-ins alongside CGI and existing footage. When the movie was released in 2015, fans worldwide mourned through their tears as the final scenes became a touching tribute to Paul, cementing his legacy not just as an actor, but as a brother and friend. The world reacted quickly to his passing. Social media flooded with tributes from co-stars, fans, and friends. Vigils and memorials sprang up near the crash site, filled with flowers, letters, and heartfelt messages. Paul's remains were cremated, and his ashes were laid to rest in a non-denominational ceremony at Forest Lawn Memorial Park. Yet behind the public grief, legal battles loomed. In December 2014, Paul's father filed a wrongful death claim against Rotus's estate, seeking a share of the value from their jointly owned cars. Meanwhile, Paul's daughter, Meadow, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Porsche in September 2015, claiming design flaws in the Carrera GT contributed to her father's death. She pointed to the car's instability and the seatbelt placement, arguing they were part of what led to the tragic outcome. Porsche pushed back, asserting that Paul knowingly took the risk. They said the perils were open and obvious, emphasizing that the driver's choice to speed played a role. Despite their defense, Meadow and Paul's father reached separate, confidential settlements. However, Christine Rotus, Roger's widow, wasn't as fortunate. In April 2016, a judge ruled in favor of Porsche in her case, but beyond the headlines and court battles, there was a story less told. Paul's love for his daughter, Meadow Walker, and how she has carried his legacy forward. Paul and Rebecca Soteros were childhood friends who became young sweethearts. Their relationship was passionate but rocky, full of ups and downs that left Paul conflicted. His sister Ashley once said that their connection swung between friendship and romance, never quite settling. When Rebecca discovered she was pregnant in 1998, Paul was scared. His mother, Cheryl, encouraged him to marry Rebecca, believing they'd eventually find their way. But Paul wasn't ready. He openly admitted in later interviews that while his heart wanted to be a family man, his mind wasn't there yet. "I was an animal," he confessed, struggling with the idea of commitment, while fame pulled him in different directions. Their daughter, Meadow Rainwalker, was born on November 4, 1998, in Los Angeles. Paul was thrilled yet torn, knowing the challenges ahead. Rebecca decided to move to Hawaii with their newborn, away from the spotlight and the chaos that followed Paul's budding career. Life there was quieter, but being the daughter of a rising star had its challenges. Rebecca would recount that strangers would sometimes recognize Meadow, even at the grocery store, and try to approach her. For Meadow, life in Hawaii was an attempt at normalcy, surrounded by ocean breezes and childhood simplicities. Paul's life, meanwhile, was anything but simple. As he starred in action-packed blockbusters, fatherhood was always at the back of his mind. He spoke candidly about how hard it was to be apart from Meadow. "My heart was desperate for so many years with the situation with my daughter. She's living in Hawaii and I'm running here," he once said, hinting at the constant tug-of-war between career and fatherhood. When Meadow turned 13, she moved to Los Angeles to live with Paul full-time. For Paul, this was life-changing. In a 2013 interview just months before his death, he described Meadow as the best partner I've ever had. He was finally embracing the role of being a present father. They shared daily moments, laughs, and a deepening bond that Paul cherished. It was as if life had clicked into place, a balance he had craved for so long. But tragedy struck before this chapter could fully unfold. On November 30, 2013, Paul's death shattered that newfound stability. Meadow was only 15, and the loss was immeasurable. As the world mourned the star of the Fast and the Furious, Meadow lost a father, a guide, and her greatest cheerleader. In the years following Paul's death, Meadow's life took a public and personal turn. She inherited a substantial portion of his estate and faced the responsibility of managing her father's legacy while dealing with her grief. At just 17, she made headlines for filing a wrongful death suit against Porsche, arguing that design flaws in the Carrera GT contributed to Paul's death. The case was settled out of court in 2017, and Meadow received a reported $10.1 million from Rodus's estate. But Meadow's tribute to Paul didn't stop there. In 2015, on what would have been Paul's 42nd birthday, she launched the Paul Walker Foundation. The foundation focused on causes close to Paul's heart: ocean conservation, environmental protection, and empowering young people. Meadow poured herself into the work, determined to share the values that defined her father. "I wanted to start this foundation because I want to share that piece of him with the world," she said. It was more than an homage. It was a promise to keep his light shining. Meadow's life blossomed in other ways too. She stepped into the world of modeling, signing with DNA Models in 2017. By 2022, she was walking runways for fashion giants like Proenza Schouler and Alexander McQueen, and becoming the face of Givenchy Beauty. Her career was a testament to resilience, carving out her own identity while honoring Paul's legacy. Her work in fashion and philanthropy spoke to a strength Paul's brother Cody remarked on, saying, "She's pursuing a career that's extremely difficult, but she's finding her own way, and he'd be so proud of her." In 2021, Meadow married actor Louis Thornton Allen in an intimate beachside ceremony in the Dominican Republic. The moment was filled with memories and symbols of her father. Vin Diesel, Paul's Fast and Furious co-star and Meadow's godfather, walked her down the aisle. It was a gesture that spoke volumes about the bond between the Walker family and Paul's on-screen family. Meadow's wedding was small, private, and poignant, a celebration of love that echoed Paul's own love for his daughter. 2 years later, Meadow and Thornton Allen announced their separation but emphasized mutual respect. Through life's changes, Meadow continued to show strength. She never stopped honoring her father. On the 10th anniversary of his death in 2023, she posted a heartfelt video on Instagram, showing a private moment of her surprising Paul on his birthday. "10 years without you. I love you forever," she wrote. Each tribute, each post was a window into their bond, filled with love and longing. Meadow's connection to the Fast and Furious family stayed strong. She made a cameo in Fast X in 2023, bringing Paul's legacy full circle. It was emotional not just for Meadow but for Vin Diesel and other cast members who had seen her grow up. "It did something to my soul, to see her want to honor her father and contribute in her own way," Vin shared. Through her work with the Paul Walker Foundation, her modeling career, and her constant tributes, Meadow has kept her father's memory alive. She's not just carrying on his name but embodying the spirit of who he was: adventurous, kind, and deeply committed to making a difference. Paul Walker's story didn't end that tragic November day. It continues through Meadow, who turned heartbreak into a powerful mission, reminding the world that legacies are built not just on fame, but on love, perseverance, and acts of kindness. If you've been touched by Paul Walker's legacy and Meadow's incredible journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What part of their story resonated with you the most?